Next, we can talk a little bit more back on, extracurriculars. Like what were your big three?
For my big three, I would suggest for everybody to pick one that is a clinical experience and then probably one that's like a research experience if it was impactful. One experience where I studied abroad in Mexico for a month and did rotations in some of the clinics that they had there. I had a leadership experience. I was the academic coordinator and executive director of Men of the Mecca Initiative, a men's resource at Howard University. I can talk a little bit more about that. HU. And then I had my research experience at the NIH, which was research that was for my honors thesis.
Like for some people who are wondering, like, okay, what is it that makes it impactful experience the most impactful? Because you have all these experiences, you have 15 to choose from. What made those three kind of stand out as impactful or your most impactful experiences?
I would say for me, like part of it is just like, okay, like was it impactful for you? Like, did you feel like it made a difference in your application? It has to be something that you feel like I need more space to talk about because you're going to have more space to talk about it. So you shouldn't pick something that you can't actually talk at length about for your most meaningful experience. That's just the name of the game. But for me in particular, I would say have a good bit that like talks about, because you get like two separate sections for it. I would say one of the first section should be like, okay, just explaining what the role was, what was the accomplishments of it. And the second part could be more of a narrative of like a specific moment or a specific like thing that happened during that activity that directly impacted you. And that's how I wrote about it for each of my three things. For my clinical experience, I talked about speaking Spanish to one of the patients. And it wasn't even like a lot of Spanish. It was like, hey, I like your shoes. And it like allowed them to feel more comfortable in the patient room. And I talked about being in a leadership role and seeing like the other brothers around me grow over time and how impactful that was. And then for my research experience, yes, I talked about what the research was, but why it was impactful for it to me was also more so that it was a leadership position for me where I was basically running the lab. I helped build up the lab. I had mentees under me that I was helping learn everything and stuff like that. I had my own project. So that was something that I talked about, my most meaningful experience. And those why those three, I chose those three for my most meaningful experiences.